Chapter 1929, The Secret Attacker. After experiencing multiple rounds of attacks, Zhang Yi's everything under heaven was finally broken. Even he found it difficult to defend against multiple attacks from two lords of the netherworld at the same time. But then again, if he hadn't been there, no one else would have been able to hold out this long. With the destruction of everything under heaven, everyone was forced to face the two lords of the netherworld, the immortal demon child and the crow of doom, surrounded by countless netherwalkers. Boom! The immortal demon child spat out a pillar of light from his mouth, which swept across the water pool. Zhang Yi immediately dodged with the people around him. He drew his demon sword, and the power of the void formed a huge vortex behind him. Endless void power gathered in his hand and flowed over the blade. Star-piercing blade. A huge black sword beam extended for thousands of meters and slashed towards the immortal demon child's neck. Even though his neck was covered in fat, common sense dictated that this should be a vital spot. With one stroke, a long, thin crack appeared on the immortal demon child's neck, but instead of blood, a large amount of black demonic energy spurted out. Wah! The immortal demon child cried out in pain, its cries becoming even louder as it began to attack everything around it indiscriminately. It didn't even care that it smashed a large number of little demons into mincemeat. Odibio stood in the middle of everyone, chanting shamanic incantations. Seeing this, he loudly reminded everyone, "Don't try to kill them anymore. These things can't be killed. They are just demons created by the demon god. We can only seal them or choose to run away." He slashed his own arm with a white bone dagger and then dipped the blood on Zhang Yi and the others' weapons. The blood of a shaman can suppress filth, which may be helpful to you. But right now, we should leave this place immediately. Once the war starts, the situation will only develop in a direction that is unfavorable to us. Odibio looked around. Endless netherwalkers were howling and attacking, and the 8 crows of doom, together with the immortal demon children, had already formed a terrifying killing field. Everything is so abnormal. This shouldn't be happening. It's as if they knew we were coming here. Nothing is going the way we planned. We must leave this place and take the initiative into our own hands. Many people realized this. It was as if everything had been set up as a trap for them. From the moment they entered the demon's eye, their troubles had never stopped. It was as if they weren't here to seal Mammon, but Mammon had opened his bag and invited them in. But why was this happening? Had someone done something behind the scenes? Zhang Yi's eyes swept over everyone present and finally landed on Olive. He began to wonder if this was all Olive's doing. After all, he was from the Eastern Orthodox Church and was also the initiator of the operation. But was that reasonable? What good would it do the Holy See to kill all of them? Zhang Yi didn't think the Holy See had the ability to wipe out this copy and seal Mammon on its own. Moreover, Olive himself was struggling at the moment. But if it wasn't Olive, then who else could it be? No matter how you looked at it, Olive was very suspicious. At this moment, Kangda's voice rang in Zhang Yi's ear. "This is all like a conspiracy, old Zhang. We can't stay here any longer. Staying here will definitely get us killed. We have to leave as soon as possible. There might be conspirators among these people." Just as Zhang Yi was about to reply, the immortal demon child suddenly attacked him. The huge pillar of light was filled with the aura of death, making Zhang Yi's heart tremble. If it weren't for Nyx blocking its line of sight, the threat it posed would be even greater. The second hand of time predicted its attack trajectory, and Zhang Yi moved away instantly, avoiding being hit. These lords of the netherworld were powerful, but Zhang Yi was no longer the little mutant he used to be. With his powerful strength and various trump cards, he could even take on a black bishop-level mutant. The worst that could happen was that he would escape, so he wasn't particularly afraid. However, in such a complicated environment, he was considering how to find Mammon's sealed location and successfully seal him away. Only then would he be able to remove the threat of the demon eye tattoo on his body. In addition, Ling's cyborg body must also be recovered, as it would be his most powerful trump card when facing major disasters in the future. "We must leave immediately. Don't linger." Zhang Yi called out to everyone and decided to leave this place immediately and then figure out what to do next. He used the chains of divine refinement to wrap around the spear of Longinus and threw it fiercely at the immortal demon child. The huge bronze pillar whistled as it swept towards the immortal demon child. The immortal demon child did not dodge or evade, but let out a miserable cry and reached out to grab it. Bang! The spear of Longinus struck its arm, then hit its stomach, causing its huge body to tilt in the pool of water, and its wails became even more shrill. The immortal demon child seemed to be enraged, shooting black light indiscriminately from its mouth, firing wildly like a madman. Seeing that this didn't cause much damage, Zhang Yi finally realized that this was beyond human capabilities and that they had to escape the Netherwalker's encirclement as quickly as possible. But at this point, it was already too late to gather everyone together. With everything under heaven broken through, a large number of Netherwalkers and Crows of Doom had already killed their way to the front and engaged the Mutant Alliance in a bloody melee. "Old Zhang, let's get out of here. We can't wait any longer, we can't save everyone." Kangda's voice rang urgently in Zhang Yi's ears, and a hint of impatience arose in Zhang Yi's heart. The collision of supernatural powers and flying flesh filled the entire space. Just at that moment, he suddenly felt dizzy, and the sound of electricity rang in his ears, preventing him from hearing what was happening around him. Buzz, the ringing in his ears and dizziness caused him to stumble and almost fall into the pool. In that instant, a silent but deadly cold light shot from behind Zhang Yi. It came from behind Zhang Yi and approached his back just as he was unable to quickly deploy his everything under heaven. A momentary lapse of concentration made Zhang Yi realize that it was already too late. His spine felt cold, and he could only hope that his demon god armor could block the blow. Everything had been calculated so cleverly, and the direction behind him was clearly left to the mutants of the coalition. But the dizziness and vertigo made him temporarily lose his mind, and he was unable to activate the second hand of time. It was as if everything had been planned as a conspiracy against him, just for this perfect moment. Zhang Yi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He never thought that his real enemy would come from within. But if they wanted to kill him like this, they were dreaming. It was already too late to open the dimensional gate and escape to the void world. However, he still had one trump card that could dodge any so-called fatal attack. Blink in the sky. Though this technique had numerous usage restrictions and would cause significant damage to his body afterward, it was the only way to ensure his current state. Otherwise, even if he survived the attack, he would be seriously injured and unable to protect himself in such a chaotic battle. Zhang Yi was about to make his move, but just as the pendulum in his left eye began to swing, he suddenly realized something and stopped. From another direction, a light with a strong aura of death struck behind him. However, the target was not him, but the energy beam that was about to kill him. The two forces collided less than a meter behind Zhang Yi, and the deadly beam of light dissipated into thin air the moment it touched the energy of death. By then, Zhang Yi had already regained his senses, but the battlefield around him was already in complete chaos. However, the feeling of being secretly attacked lingered in Zhang Yi's heart. He knew that the person who wanted to kill him was nearby, and it might even be one of the bishop-level powers. Now, he definitely couldn't stay here any longer. Retreat! Zhang Yi shouted, and all the mutants in his team surrounded him and immediately entered Mu Yan's shadow. Zhang Yi turned around and fled into the distance without hesitation. This scene stunned the other mutants. They had all felt the attack against Zhang Yi. After all, an assassination attempt of that level was difficult to ignore. No one expected that someone would attack Zhang Yi at a time like this. There was no reason for anyone to try to stop Zhang Yi from leaving. After all, there was an enemy within, and everyone was a suspect. Besides, leaving was the best choice right now. Damn it, who was that bastard? Everyone looked at each other, suspicion flashing in their eyes. However, now was not the time for infighting. Go! Odin shouted. He held a long thunder spear in each hand and threw them into the crow soldiers in front of him. Two huge balls of lightning exploded instantly, blowing the crow soldiers to pieces. The eight-winged horse reared up and neighed, and Odin led the charge toward the outer area. The battlefield was in chaos, with all the mutants trying to break through. The Dark Goddess Nyx and Saladin were originally the darlings of darkness, but seeing the chaotic situation, they did not linger in battle. Instead, they used their abilities to protect the others and cover their retreat. However, the battle was completely unfavorable to them. They began to suspect each other, and they had no good way to deal with the powerful Lord of the Netherworld here. The 8 Crows of Doom each displayed the strength of a bishop. Even if they could seal away some of them, as long as one remained alive, the others could split again and become even more powerful. Not to mention the immortal demon child, whose defensive and offensive abilities were both at their peak. Zhang Yi decisively chose to flee, but after using Space Shuffle, he suddenly sensed a terrifying aura behind him. Wow! A piercing scream came from behind him. Zhang Yi turned around and saw that the huge baby was on all fours, crawling towards him in an extremely twisted posture, like a gray monster fish. Despite its enormous body, it moved at lightning speed, accompanied by countless gray netherwalkers. Wow! The immortal demon child chased after Zhang Yi, its cries piercingly shrill. It seemed to have set its sights on Zhang Yi, and even with his Space Shuffle ability, he was quickly caught up. Why is this thing after me? Zhang Yi's scalp tingled. He knew that he absolutely couldn't be dragged here, because in the distance, the Crow of Doom's avatar was also rushing over at full speed, determined to fight to the death. The Lord of the Netherworld would kill all creatures that entered Mammon's sealed realm, unless they chose to fall and become new Netherwalkers. Zhang Yi cautiously watched his surroundings, because he didn't know who might suddenly attack him from the shadows. He clenched the Divine Refinement Demon Sword in his hand, and the power of the void formed a huge vortex behind him, like a giant black hole spinning and surging with terrifying power. Zhang Yi flipped his wrist and struck with all his might, and in an instant, a huge black blade shot out from the demon sword, piercing through space and stabbing straight at the immortal demon child's eyes. It was a strike with all his might, and even a black bishop-level mutant would need to dodge an attack of that energy level. However, the immortal demon child had no intention of dodging such an attack. It screamed loudly, like the vengeful spirit of an abandoned baby who had died, quickly distorting and crawling after Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi's full power strike landed on it, but it only caused it to close its eyelids. A faint black mist rose from its eyelids, but it did not cause much damage. The immortal demon child's screams became even more terrifying, sounding like a demonic voice that made one's scalp tingle and felt like one's internal organs were about to be vomited out of one's throat. The entire chest cavity felt like a high-speed washing machine. At the critical moment, the demon god armor's autonomous defense system kicked in, working hard to block the sound wave attack that was trying to invade Zhang Yi's body. The technological level of the mechanical civilization was very high. Although they were not very good in the field of supernatural powers, they had thoroughly researched heresy. Liu Karen couldn't even make another set of demon god armor like the one Zhang Yi was wearing. It was directly modified from Ichigard's armor. Perhaps on the entire planet, there were only a few civilizations that could make armor comparable to it. Boom! The immortal demon child quickly crawled towards Zhang Yi, like a moving deathly gray mountain. It opened its pitch-black pupils, like an evil ghost from hell, and crawled towards Zhang Yi with a blood-curdling scream. Anyone who faced such a scene would feel their scalp tingle. Its defense was too strong, and ordinary attacks were completely ineffective. A large number of little demons also swarmed like locusts, and Zhang Yi's heartbeat quickened. "Boss, let us help you." Fatty Sue's voice rang in Zhang Yi's ears, and everyone in shadow space also sensed the terrible danger and rushed over to help Zhang Yi. Only Yang Xinxin stopped them. "Don't go and make things worse. The battlefield is too complicated, and there are enemies lurking in the shadows. It's not wise to fight. The smartest choice is to escape as quickly as possible." She was right. Before figuring out if there were other enemies lurking in the shadows, Zhang Yi couldn't possibly fight this immortal monster with all his strength. In the current situation, they were too passive. This was strange, very strange. "Brother, use the Reaper of Love," Yang Xinxin suggested to Zhang Yi. large-scale weapons of mass destruction should not be used in such a place because there were many other human forces and mutants nearby. However, at this moment, Zhang Yi had to get out of this dangerous situation as quickly as possible. Zhang Yi was also very decisive. He opened the dimensional gate and took out 5 high-powered Reapers of Love in one go. After being modified by Liu Karen, they no longer needed to be carried like ballistic missiles and could be detonated from a long distance, which was very suitable for Zhang Yi's fighting style. Wow! The immortal demon child wailed as it rushed towards Zhang Yi, its huge head less than 5 kilometers away from him. Zhang Yi's eyes were fixed on it, and finally looked at its big mouth, which was as black as the abyss. Finally, he sent a warning to the other mutant teams via the communication channel. I'm going to release the Reaper of Love, stay away. Perhaps some of these people wanted to harm him, but it might not be them. Even if there were traitors, Zhang Yi was certain that most of them were innocent. It would be extremely foolish to harm him and put themselves in such a desperate situation. After issuing the warning, Zhang Yi immediately opened the dimensional gate. Space Shuffle not only allowed people to move, but also allowed them to teleport objects. With himself as the center, he could teleport any substance that did not contain spirit to any location within a 4-kilometer radius. Of course, this included the huge mouth of the immortal demon child. 5 high-powered Reapers of Love fell directly into its mouth. This lord of the netherworld did not seem to have much intelligence, just like a baby with only the instincts to eat and destroy. It represented the childlike part of Mammon's subconscious. The moment the Reaper of Love entered, Zhang Yi already had 1 foot on the edge of the dimensional gate. He detonated the Reaper of Love and quickly pulled back 4 kilometers, then another 4 kilometers, and kept going backwards. A terrifying light burst from the mouth of the immortal demon child. It felt the burning heat in its mouth and tried to close its mouth to swallow this unpleasant feeling. But in less than a second, its head turned red and even transparent, its huge face swelled up, and white smoke gushed out uncontrollably from its 7 orifices. Wow! It tilted its neck back, its head facing the sky, and its huge, round, ugly head was like a leaky bucket, spewing the power of a nuclear explosion from its 7 orifices. Zhang Yi escaped fast enough, but he could still feel the terrifying heat behind him, and the power of the radiation made his heart tremble. Fortunately, the immortal demon child withstood most of the explosive force, allowing him to escape unscathed, and the aftermath was absorbed by the demon god's armor. However, the power of the nuclear explosion was even greater than he had imagined, causing the entire space to begin to shake violently. The mountains shook and the earth trembled, and Zhang Yi remembered that this place was a huge, long tunnel, probably a cave deep underground. The power of the nuclear explosion, combined with the resistance of the Lord of the Netherworld itself when attacked, caused the entire space to collapse. It was not the collapse of a cave, but the collapse of space. Zhang Yi saw everything in front of him distorting, endless darkness enveloping everything, and his field of vision gradually stretched out all the light and shadows, his body in a state of weightlessness. Zhang Yi couldn't tell which direction he was facing, so he could only flee in the opposite direction of the immortal demon child. Out of nowhere, a reassuring voice rang out, "Old Zhang, come this way." Zhang Yi felt as if he had found his backbone, and immediately activated Space Shuffle in the direction indicated. The surroundings became pitch black, and he suddenly couldn't see anything. He didn't know if Nyx's protection was still there, but even if it was, it probably didn't matter. There was nothing here, so it didn't seem to make any difference whether he could see anything or not. He could only feel the aftermath of the nuclear explosion continuing to spread, or perhaps the human coalition forces still fighting the Netherwalkers. He quickly fled forward, even able to hear his own heart beating. Calm down, take a deep breath. Okay, that's it, my heart rate has calmed down. Something's wrong. Everything that happened today is very strange. This is definitely not a coincidence. It's my sixth sense that has saved me from death countless times. This strange feeling must mean that there's something I don't know. The appearance of the Netherwalkers and the Lord of the Netherworld can't be a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence that I was trapped by the mysterious gate formation as soon as I entered this world. being attacked in secret is even less of a coincidence. So, is this a conspiracy? Who here is the one who attacked me? An attack powerful enough to threaten my life, and that sudden psychic attack. On a spiritual level, my defenses are not that strong. If I'm not paying attention, even a chariot-level psychic mutant could affect me. But that attack must have been launched by someone at the bishop level. Odin's ability is lightning, Olive's is fire. I saw how they fought in Fremons, so it couldn't be them. Then it must be Odibio or Saladin, or one of those hermaphrodites from Columbia. But what is their purpose? Could it be? An idea popped into Zhang Yi's mind. They already know that I tricked everyone. Am I the one who will ultimately inherit the Yihen tribe? With so many thoughts running through his mind, Zhang Yi couldn't figure out who it was in such a short time. After thinking it over, he felt that Saladin and Sharon were the most likely suspects. At that time, everyone was gathered together, and Odibio was reciting spells to fight the Netherwalkers. It would have been too obvious for anyone else to intervene. However, Saladin and Nyx were able to use the shadows to launch their attack without anyone noticing. Things are not as simple as I thought. And Zhang Yi frowned as a new question arose. When I was attacked, who was the person who secretly helped me?